Okay, this video is going to be all about black and white conversion. So here I have a photo that I took, and one way you can maximize your black and white conversion, because you are taking what I hope is a raw file and converting it then to a editable format like a PSD, and because it's raw, you're going to have your color information. Now, a simple way is, of course, just bring the saturation down. And if you're in a hurry, this is not a bad idea. You can start working the image as you see fit. However, what I would do, let's go back to auto. What I think is a good choice is to not deal with it here, but instead try to maximize your dynamic range, and that is going to be the range that everything is in. So right here, like that just looks solid white. Now if I bring this down, we know it's not quite solid white, but I don't want to bring that down, the exposure down. Instead, I'm going to lower the contrast down, and that's going to give me, right, lower those, and we'll keep the shadows there. That's going to give me more dynamic range, more information in the cloud area, and that's definitely what I want. So then I'm going to open the image up, and inside Photoshop, oops, not sure why that came up, but inside Photoshop, in your adjustments layer, you have your black and white, and this is really where you can convert it, but convert it smartly because it's a separate adjustment layer. It's not actually affecting the image itself. And so the reason why this is smart is that you can individually start changing the color channels or the different color tones. And so you can really, kind of create the look here. And anybody who's going to say this is cheating or whatever, just know that Ansel Adams, while he didn't have Photoshop, he did have burning and dodging techniques that he used on his photos quite a bit, right? So over here we have our burning and dodging tools to darken or lighten areas of his photos, his black and white photos, to get the look that he wanted. So you are just as much a photographer for doing this as if not. Now, if you rely on this, take a bad photo and then rely on the editing to try and make it a good photo, well, then you got problems. But anyway, so if we just hit auto, we'll see. This is kind of what it thinks it should do. I kind of think that's just fine. You do have some of these over here. We can go for, your different presets, but I actually think the default and auto works just fine. And then if I wanted to adjust, I want to pull this down a little bit and leave that there. Now, the next level that you can go to is, I'm going to hit Command J to duplicate the layer. And then I can start actually using my dodge tools. Dodge will make it lighter and burn will make it darker. So I'm going to actually start with burn actually. And you can burn in shadows, midtones, or highlights, and this becomes really important. So what I want to do is actually bring in more of the shadows back into here without affecting the midtones. And so if I hit shadows, I'm going to bring the exposure down a little bit. I don't want it too strong. And just make sure we have a soft brush. We do. And so when I run it through here, see how that just treats that nicely, brings the darker elements down without changing the midtone or the highlights. And we'll run it through here too, since that reflection should be as dark. And I can also kind of just run through here and maybe up in the sky just to see if it looks any better. Okay, now I can actually go to midtones and right, see how that just brings the whole thing down. But what I want to do is actually hit some specific parts. So here, I like this guy a little darker. Right, I think these trees, right, and what this is going to end up doing is creating that contrast, which in turn creates depth in the black and white photo. Right, and then I just need to make sure that I get that depth represented in the reflection as well. Right, and then one thing we could do is go in and switch to our dodge tool. Dodge tool works the same, shadows, midtones, highlights. Now, of course, when we were in our burn tool, if we tried to burn the shadows, or I'm sorry, if we tried to burn the highlights, right, it just basically makes it gray. It's not very appealing. And likewise, when we're in our dodge tools, if we try to dodge the shadows, it also just does not make it very attractive. And so what we really want to do is focus on like maybe the highlights or the midtones. I'm going to actually focus on the highlights, bring that exposure down quite a bit, and see right there that little tree and the dead tree right next to it. I want to hit that so that it pops up, and these rocks, right, so that these rocks kind of pop a little bit more in the image, thus promoting what am I trying to say? Promoting the reflection. There we go. Words. All right. And so again, this is going to add some of that depth back into it. All right, maybe a little stalk there. Maybe a little bit over there. All right, I like that. And then one thing is, this is really, really kind of ugly because it's just so bright. So I'm actually going to go back to the burn tool and just see if I can do anything about this. So yeah, unfortunately I blew out the area right here, meaning this is just solid white. There's no information. So what I can do is use my clone tool, or the clone stamp, and I'm going to just pick up some of these clouds and paint them in. Now, yeah, I have that edge there. I realize that, so you have to sort of mask over that. Right, but this just helps fill in a little bit. Oops. So that you don't have such an ugly sky. That's essentially what it is. Oops. Right, and I'm doing this on a really low flow, 16, so that I can paint it in and it doesn't look fake. Well, at least I hope it doesn't. Right there, it looks like we have a line, so we want to cover over that. Okay. Now, because the reflection doesn't do a very good job of getting the clouds, I'm not going to worry a great deal. And now when I go back and I do my burn tool, and we'll do the midtones, and we'll just brush over these, right, we get a little bit more of an interesting sky. Right. However, you can kind of tell because of my lack. So I'm going to create a new layer, make sure that it's sampling all layers. Alt here, and I'm just going to, oops, yep, I'm going to fill in right here, even though I know it is going right over these trees. That is fine. What I'm trying to do is hide that edge. Okay, and then I'm just going to take these and not screen. Multiply, yes, multiply. All right, and then pull this back a little bit. Although you can see I made an error right there, so I need to just fix that so we don't have that line there. And then I'm just going to back away by decreasing the opacity of this layer until it matches pretty well. Nah, I'm okay with that. We won't shoot for perfection, but good enough. Okay, then we can come up above our black and white, right to the top of the stack. And now we can start working with levels to bring back in, right, some gorgeous contrast. Now, we may not want to bring this up all that far. I am going to bring it up to the edge of where white is, which is right there. And then I can choose to, no, I think I'm happy with that there. Bring that right about there. And then for good measure, I am going to add a curves so I can do just a little bit there. And now we have a nice black and white that expresses all of the tones that I really want. And if I turn this layer, that was our original and our black and white. The only other thing I would probably do here, just because I do not like distractions, and this is very distracting, I would just remove that. Right, since it's a rock in the water, we don't have to worry about it up here. Right, and there we go. Black and white conversion.